2018 was a life-changing year, as that was the year that I joined the inner circle. When I got into Forex specifically, I was able to cut all the nonsense and was guided straight to ICT. Many people, when they join ICT's mentorship, as well as those that are finding him on YouTube, there's always a very similar thing that we all talk about, which is the amount of hours of content, and it can be very overwhelming. However, I will say this, it is worth it. There is a lot of work that was required to ultimately put in order to gain all that experience that ICT himself was bringing down to us. I always recommend that they typically start with that mentorship. It's on his YouTube now, 100% free, because it covers all the foundations. The one con that I did have about the mentorship was that all the content wasn't overlaid where you can kind of consume it right away. Obviously, there was 12 months. Every month, there was a new lesson that was shown to us. On each month, there was different concepts. Sometimes it was about risk management, sometimes about ICT concepts. We talk about order blocks, breakers, fundamental like COT reports. Every month we kind of had to wait for that. We would consume the content, we would watch the videos. I would get it done pretty much within a week. And you kind of want to, move on to the next thing. However, I understand having patience for that. But the benefit now is that anyone who's coming across ICT, all the content is out there. If you're someone who learns a lot faster, you're able to consume the content right there. You don't have to wait a month in order to get the next sequence. Anyone who's been in my public Telegram for the past 2 years have seen that I use the very basic foundations of ICT concepts with high level of accuracy. At the end of the day, you really just need the foundations. Most people, they'll see this new concept and they'll just automatically assume if I learn this new thing, that's the holy grail. If I learn that, that's the holy grail, when that is not the case at all. Not even just with ICT concepts, but with any sort of trading concepts you see online. Everything can work to an extent, depending on the individual, how they apply it to the actual market. Because again, it's not going to be an overnight thing. Sometimes do people go into trading with the idea that, hey, I'm going to come in, I'm going to make money right away, I'm going to get out of debt, I'm going to pay my bills, I'm going to be able to buy all the luxury items. That is a bad motivation. I think most people come into trading and they ultimately have this persona that I can just dedicate a few hours a week and I'm going to get it. When that's not the reality. In the beginning, you're going to have to put in so many hours in order to get the repetition. Anyone who's a beginner in the gym, as an example, they're not going to come in and start pushing weight across all exercises and their cardio is not going to be that great. However, when you start to consistently put in the work, the strength goes up, cardio goes up, performance in the gym goes up, and it's the same exact thing when it comes to trading. However, people want to find the quick shortcuts, and that's the reality. Growing a trading account can be very difficult. I'm going to break it down on how you can grow any account size. Number one, leverage firms. It allows people that have the skill set to really maximize their earning potential. If you're someone who's trading a small account, if you make 10% on the $100, you're only going to make $10 versus that $100 that can potentially buy you almost 2 10K evaluations for about $100 depending on the firms. If you're someone who's skilled enough and you're able to get a payout, you could then funnel that into your smaller account. Number two, develop a proper skill set. If you are not a good trader, you will not be able to grow any amount of money outside of potentially getting lucky. Part of the skill set is being able to, hey, what am I going to do when I enter a trade? What am I going to do as the trade goes in my favor? What am I going to do when the trade is going against me? Having a plan across all the different ways of executing is a skill set in its own. Number three, focus on the big picture plays. You can potentially make a little bit more money because obviously the range is big enough, and look to maximize the potential profits. Having a higher risk reward system is going to severely benefit anyone who's trying to grow a small account. When you are risking a specific percentage on a small account, let's just say you have a $1,000 account. If you're risking 5%, that's putting you at a $50 risk per trade. If you're someone who can optimize your system where, hey, I can potentially get 5R on any given session, that $50 now turns into $250, and that is a 25% increase in your account. Obviously, you need to sustain a very solid win rate in order for this to really gradually, exponentially grow the account. If you don't know how to do that and you don't know how to optimize your risk reward, I would highly suggest to check out my public Telegram, link in the description below. I have a free educational course on my website where I talk about SMC concepts, ICT concepts, and how to optimize for a higher risk reward. With over 5 years of experience with ICT concepts, what are my key takeaway points? Number one, make sure to take your time. There's so many hours of video to watch, so many hours of content to watch. You could learn something, but in order to be able to learn it and then be able to apply it in real live conditions is a completely separate thing. Number two, don't trade while you're learning these concepts. It's something that no one ever listens to. Just do not trade, because what happens is if you lose money, you're going to start blaming the concepts, when the reality is this: you're just not prepared and you're not ready to implement these concepts. Number three, focus on the foundations and the basics. You're gonna have this shiny object syndrome. I want to start doing this type of strategy. I want to take that strategy. But all that's gonna do is just mess up your psychology, because you're gonna be chasing these new strategies that you have no idea how they work and no idea how to even implement it. The biggest benefit that I personally think when it comes to ICT is the weekly commentaries. When ICT himself was kind of going over every single week on what his expectation for the market and the terminology and the verbiage that he would use. For example, if price was hitting a fair value gap, he would talk about, hey, I want to see price move away from this level with speed. When there's a liquidity pool resting, he would typically say, I want to see speed for the market to clean out that liquidity pool. Small things like that, they register, especially if you're putting in the work. If you're journaling day in, day out, you're studying these big price moves in the marketplace, you will be able to kind of identify these things, especially when you're hearing the things that ICT is mentioning to really be on the lookout for. And that, in my opinion, is where the experience lies. Someone could tell you something, but ultimately when you see it for yourself, week in, week out, it makes such a big difference into our subconscious.